I'm Crin. Standing in the courtroom, I watched as the judge delivered the verdict. The words echoed in my ears. The plaintiff, Crin, is awarded the full $7,600 compensation for the damaged lock and delayed tool purchase, and costs connected to the defendant's interference with her training. The defendant is also ordered to pay a large portion of the plaintiff's attorney fees. The total judgment exceeded $24,000. As I looked at my brother across the room, his face pale and defeated, I couldn't help but think back to how we got here. It all started when I was living with my parents in a small town outside of Seattle. I was in the middle of a marine engineering apprenticeship at a local shipyard. I spent my days inspecting engines, replacing worn-out parts, and documenting repairs. Living at home allowed me to save money for specialized tools and an advanced training program in California. The $7,600 I had saved came from overtime work, a performance bonus, and the sale of a classic boat I had painstakingly restored. A private collector had agreed to hold a set of rare nautical instruments for me, but the purchase was delayed, so I stored the cash in a fire-resistant lockbox under my bed. One key was on my work keychain, and the spare was locked in my mother's jewelry box. One Thursday morning, I noticed scratches around the lockbox keyhole. The cash envelopes were gone, but my identification, training certificates, and boat sale receipt were still there. It was clear that whoever took the money knew exactly what they were looking for. My parents had gone to a family reunion on Wednesday, while I had worked a 16-hour shift. My older brother, Jake, had stopped by the house that afternoon. He was a car salesman at a high-end dealership, always living a flashy lifestyle, and he often dropped by unannounced, borrowing things and making himself at home. 6 months ago, he had taken $500 from my piggy bank and only admitted it when I found the money missing. My parents had just brushed it off as a mistake. This time, the security camera footage in the hallway was deleted. The system log showed that someone using Jake's phone accessed the camera settings at 3:18 p.m. 8 minutes later, the footage was erased. At 3:45, the front door camera caught him leaving with a large envelope under his arm. That evening, my parents invited Jake to dinner. Before I mentioned the missing money, I placed printed screenshots of the security log beside his plate and asked if he had been in my room. He immediately accused me of snooping on the family. My mother told me to calm down, and my father warned that false accusations could break up the family. Jake watched them defend him, and then he smirked. "Fine, I took it," he said nonchalantly. When I asked where the money was, he claimed it was already spent. When I demanded he pay me back within 48 hours, he laughed and said I was living rent-free, so the money was my contribution to the family. I reminded him that I paid for groceries and utilities, and he didn't contribute a single cent. He leaned in and sneered, "What are you going to do? Sue me?" I expected my father to stand up for me, but instead, he said Jake was going through a tough time at work and that I was young enough to earn the money back. My mother told me not to make a big deal out of it. They were asking me, the hard-working and responsible one, to absorb the loss. I smiled, cleared my plate, and went upstairs. I took pictures of the damaged lock, packed a bag, and by midnight, I was at my friend Lily's place. Lily and I had met at a community college welding class. She was one of the few people who knew I only asked for help when I was truly desperate. The next morning, I started making calls to attorneys. The first two either thought the amount was too small or advised me to handle it myself. Then I reached attorney Grace Thompson. Her office specialized in property disputes and fraud cases. She asked me detailed questions about the source of the money, who knew about it, and if there was evidence of Jake's entry into the house. When I mentioned the spare key in my mother's jewelry box, she paused for a moment and told me not to jump to conclusions. Grace offered me a reduced-fee consultation. At the meeting, she explained that we could file a civil claim, but she also warned me that Jake could deny everything, claim the money was a gift, or fabricate a loan agreement. Even if we won, collecting the money might be a battle. But when I thought about Jake's smug face and my parents' indifference, I said, let's start with the demand letter. Grace drafted a letter and called Jake. His tone changed when he realized it was an attorney. He first denied taking the money, then claimed it was a family loan. When Grace asked for a written agreement, he said he had one. That was the first lie we could prove. Within minutes, my phone started ringing with missed calls from Jake, my parents, and relatives. They all tried to convince me that it was just a family misunderstanding. Jake's stories kept changing. In one voicemail, he said the money never existed, in another, he claimed I gave it to him. But one voicemail caught Grace's attention. He said, "You left the key where Mom said it would be." I went back to my parents' house with Lily to collect my things. My mother was in the hallway, crying. She admitted that Jake had asked for the key to get a copy of my boat sale receipt for an insurance claim. She gave it to him, never thinking he would open the lockbox. My father called my decision to sue cruel. I asked him if he thought the theft was cruel, and he had no answer. Before I left, Jake blocked the driveway with his car. He offered to pay me $1,000 if I signed a statement saying the rest was a gift. I refused, and he threatened me with proof of a loan. Grace had predicted this move. 2 days later, Jake's attorney sent Grace a photo of a handwritten loan agreement. My name was at the bottom in black ink. The signature looked like the one I used on work forms, but I never used it for legal documents. I also noticed a faint grid on the paper, which looked like the back of a shipyard inspection form. Jake had taken some old forms from my recycling bin before. Grace demanded the original document. Jake first said it was lost, then that it was damaged by coffee, and finally, that it was destroyed during a cleaning. While we were challenging the agreement, Jake started attacking me publicly. He spread rumors in the family group chat that I was a greedy sister who was ruining his life. Some relatives believed him and told me to drop the case. Jake also contacted my supervisor at the shipyard, falsely claiming I was stealing parts to sell online. I was temporarily suspended while they investigated. The audit found no missing parts, and security records showed Jake had never entered the restricted areas. My supervisor cleared me and documented the false accusation. Grace obtained a subpoena for the dealership's printer records. The log showed that Jake printed a file called Crin Loan Final 6 days after the theft, right after receiving the demand letter. This proved the agreement was fake. Lily remembered a birthday card I had signed for my father months ago. It had disappeared from the mantel. After Grace warned about the legal consequences of destroying evidence, my mother found it in the attic with a corner cut off. A document examiner later determined that the signature on the loan agreement was copied from the card. My mother finally understood that protecting Jake was helping him lie. She agreed to testify that he confessed at dinner and that I never loaned him the money. My father initially refused to testify, but when he saw the evidence piling up, he signed a statement confirming I owed no rent and had never authorized anyone to take my savings. As the trial approached, Grace prepared me for difficult questions. Why did I keep cash at home? Because the instrument purchase required immediate payment. Why didn't I report the theft to the police right away? Because my family pressured me to keep it private. A week before the trial, Jake offered to pay me $3,000 over 2 years if I dropped the case, signed a confidentiality agreement, and said it was all a misunderstanding. I refused. I wasn't going to let him get away with his lies. In the courtroom, Grace presented our case. She showed the evidence of Jake's entry into the house, the deleted security footage, his confession, and the fake loan agreement. Jake's attorney argued that family finances were informal and that Jake genuinely believed the money was a loan. When I testified, Jake's attorney asked me about my past financial help to Jake. I admitted to lending him $150 once and paying for his car repair. He tried to use this to suggest a larger loan was possible. I replied that helping someone in the past did not give them the right to steal from me. When Jake testified, he claimed I offered him the money for a car dealership investment and wanted to avoid taxes. This was a new story, and Grace pointed out the inconsistencies. She also presented the birthday card, the printer log, and the phone records showing his attempt to cancel my instrument purchase. The decisive evidence came from an old voice recording. A few months ago, a malfunctioning intercom in the kitchen recorded a conversation between Jake and my mother. In the recording, my mother asked why he took all my savings. He said I would have refused to help, and he needed the money for a gambling debt. When my mother told him to return it, he said there was nothing left and that I would get over it. Grace asked Jake if he was describing a voluntary loan when he said I would have refused. He mumbled that he was angry and didn't remember. Grace then placed the fake agreement beside the transcript and asked which statement was true. He finally admitted that he took the money without my permission. After the trial, Jake's life started to fall apart. His dealership put him on leave after learning about the fake evidence. An internal audit found irregularities in his customer accounts, and he was fired. His car was repossessed, and his landlord started eviction proceedings. My parents' relationship also changed. My father admitted that he had known Jake had a problem for a long time but was afraid to confront him. My mother started counseling, and we decided to work on rebuilding our relationship gradually. Months later, I received part of the judgment through wage withholding from Jake's new job at a warehouse. The rest came from the sale of his personal belongings. I used the money to buy the nautical instruments and enrolled in the advanced training program. A year after the theft, I completed my certification and got a full-time job with a higher salary and benefits. I kept the boat sale receipt and the first repayment check on my desk as a reminder of the hard work I had put in and the boundaries I had set. Looking back, I realized that suing my brother wasn't about revenge. It was about standing up for myself and showing that family loyalty doesn't mean allowing someone to destroy your future. So, if your brother admitted stealing your future while your parents told you to let it go, would you walk away or give him one more chance?